This past Saturday, I joined thousands of people in Washington, D.C., protesting the Trump administration. The No Kings event seems to have had a massive turnout. A mass email from Bernie Sanders estimated 200,000 people just in the Washington, D.C. area. At a larger level, according to a No Kings Move On email, 7 million people gathered at 2,700 No Kings events in all 50 states and abroad, making it the largest single day of protest in modern U.S. history. Here's what I saw. Saturday morning was a bit chilly under slightly cloudy skies. I prepared myself against the possibility of problems, putting on slacks and a button-down shirt to present a decent-looking, neutral appearance to law enforcement or any right-wing activists. I added my passport to my driver's license in case I needed to prove my citizenship. I checked in with my family in a group chat, including a lawyer in case I needed legal help. I took my smartphone, the Galaxy Fold, regretting that I hadn't gotten a burner. I took the DC Metro line, Orange Line, in from Virginia. Some passengers carried protest signs, and some wore themed clothes. I chatted with a few who were friendly and upbeat. When we reached the Smithsonian stop, there were plenty of people detraining and walking toward the surface, often in protest mode. I reached the National Mall around 11:30 a.m. The event was scheduled for noon, so I strolled around, meeting people, then joined the mass who were gradually walking towards the Capitol. Now, some sported or were engulfed by cute, whimsical, and just creative costumes, mainly of animals, and usually carrying explanatory signs. For a while, there wasn't a clear plan or direction to the event. I saw many individuals milling in various directions, then some large groups in motion, sometimes from a distance. You could see themes repeated and appearing, like Trump as dictator, ICE as kidnapper, Americans are anti-monarchy, and lots of Epstein. I eventually found one group near me, and I joined it as it flowed along a major street. The mood was often ebullient, energetic, bright. People weren't bitter, although they were sometimes quite mad at the administration. They seemed happy to be with others who felt anywhere near as they did. Costumes and clever signs entertained us. Many people were recording the scene on cameras, phones, and other devices. A few people performed on drums and loudspeakers. The skies cleared and the temperature rose, keeping our spirits up. Costumes were very creative, playing with animals, gender, politics, mythology, and naturally there were folks in giant frog costumes, which seems to be the season's anti-Trump figure. Some costumes scaled up into larger forms of street theater. Noon came, and apparently there were speakers addressing the crowd, but they were invisible and impossible to hear. It didn't seem like anyone had set up an audio amplifier or jumbotrons, so I and others worked our way forward, trying to get to the head of the line. I asked others about the situation, and they also expressed frustration. Some seemed happy just to be there. And after this went on for a while, parts of the crowd started chanting classic formulations like, "This is what democracy looks like," or "The people united can never be defeated," creating their own soundtrack. And gradually I heard speakers. One was a male voice, perhaps Mehdi Hassan. Another was a woman's I couldn't identify. A moderator I also couldn't identify was a bit better. It was hard to make out more than a few words at a time, but yard by yard I could hear more, in favor of Gaza, against Trump's tyranny, against ICE. Finally I could glimpse the edges of a stage setup, and the MC clearly announced Bill Nye. The audience went wild, chanting out, "Bill! Bill! Bill!" Maybe he projected better. Maybe they switched gear, or I was just close enough, but I could hear him very well. He spoke to memories of growing up in D.C., attending various protests and historical moments back to the 1960s. He slammed Trump for attacking science and research. I think overall there was a sense of unity and shared purpose in the moment, a pleasant insurgency against a commonly held opponent. I saw no tempers flare, and certainly zero violence. There were very little police present, to my pleasant surprise, other than a few smiling Metro police in a subway station. At one point, I could glimpse a few nondescript people with dark caps on top of one building overlooking the march. They just seemed to be peering down at us, but someone in the crowd pointed at them and a couple of guys booed. I noticed some people were moving back through the crowd. A couple apologized, saying they were too crowded, too hot, too tired, and that made a lot of sense. Around 1:20 p.m., I joined them, not for those reasons, but because an afternoon meeting awaited me. I worked back through the press, crisscrossing for some time until the swarm thinned out. There were still plenty of people, some resting on low barrier walls or sprawled out on the ground. One person had a nicely themed sign about the Andor TV show. As I retreated, more people passed me, moving to the front. Later on, a local friend told me he was part of a second wave of participation, and that sounds about right. Purely by chance, I met another local friend, and we walked back to the Smithsonian Metro stop, chatting about the event. I took the train to my town for my meeting. So what do we make of this? In a sense, there were no surprises. The arguments and points raised are well known now, circulating widely through journalism, political statements, and social media. The event fulfilled its plan of getting a lot of people together and to have some speakers. At the same time, I was pleasantly surprised there were no bold actions from ICE, law enforcement, or troops. There were also no confrontational counter-protesters that I saw or heard. Perhaps the authorities and conservative activists decided to just let No Kings October 2025 play out, retaining the ability to swoop in if needed for the former and providing plenty of fodder to mock and criticize afterward for the latter. I was delighted by the creativity, by the atmosphere. A festival atmosphere really arose. Demotic popular political art is, I think, underappreciated. For many, there was surely a sense of connection and mutual support. People who felt isolated, marginalized, threatened may have enjoyed a morale boost. Folks who thought the Democratic Party wasn't listening to them got to hear a message, and they got to transmit that message loud and clear. At the broader level, I'm not sure what impact this might have. There wasn't a call for action. There were no connections to Democratic Party actions or programs. I didn't see any Democratic figure, although independent Senator Bernie Sanders was apparently there earlier. The discourse was about resisting Trump, but that was attitudinal, not programmatic. No actions appeared for us to take, no bills or candidates to fight for. Yet, the rally might be something to build upon. If millions participated, then the Democratic Party could connect with that. Organizations who helped make the rallies happen could reach out to participants. And perhaps the event energized some people to contribute in their own ways, financially, as organizers, as media creators, or as candidates for office. One last thought. I was surprised and saddened by how little climate change appeared as a topic. Well, over to you. Did any of you participate in any No Kings event on Saturday? What's your take on the protests? The comment box is open.